This episode is brought to you by RLD Group, on a mission to reboot leadership drive, eradicate burnout in tech, and help transform technical experts lacking people leadership skills from being a company's biggest liability into their greatest asset. Leaders in tech are burning out at an absurd rate. Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre is a no BS conversation with a female executive who spent over 25 years in Silicon Valley. If you're suffering from the always on, never good enough, we'll replace you today machine called the tech space. This show will help you reboot your leadership drive. Here's Lisa.
What does it mean to design your life on purpose? That's the question we're leaning into today. And I know many leaders and many folks that are on teams of said leaders think about this. I know I did, but did I really do the designing? And was it really on purpose, or was it more what the thoughts that I thought people needed from me, or what life should be, or how could it be? And I think my burnout happened because I was not designing my life on purpose. And now I have shifted all that. But I want to just have you lean into the question, what does it mean to design your life on purpose? Because today we have the go-to expert in that field, Cheri Honeycutt. Welcome to Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre.
Hello, Lisa. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So, hey, first of all, thanks for being here. And second, thanks for, naming your company my question. Super simple. Design your life on purpose, right? That's an easy intro.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah. So Cheri and I work together at RLD Group. Cheri also has her own business. And I asked her on today because what I'm noticing in the world now that I'm putting it in air quotes, a few years into COVID, and looking at everyone's belief systems around must return to work or must stay remote, this digging your feet in the ground. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell has recently said, hey, get your ass back to work. If not, you're in your pajamas and not getting shit done, which I'm like, yo, Malcolm, I want to talk to you. Okay?
Seriously.
Designing your life on purpose doesn't mean get your ass back in the office.
No.
There are a time and a place.
Right.
That's not today. And you're not Malcolm.
No.
But I do think you can give Malcolm some tips here, my friend Cheri Honeycutt.
I'd be happy to. Pull up a chair, Malcolm.
What's your first response to you have to get back in the office? If not, I'm putting it in quotes, you're a lazy ass.
Really well, he lost me at you have to. That's just sort of like you start, it's kind of like you should. And we should on ourselves. You've heard that phrase, well, I should, or you have to, we must. Anytime we say that, we got to stop and go, whatever's about to happen, whatever's coming at the bottom end of that sentence is up for debate. Because nothing is a shoulda and a have to. And even the things that we can decide some things as shoulda for ourselves. For example, we should take care of our children. We should do things like that, but that's different than the world dictating it. That's how so many people end up miserable. Miserable.
I think that's how you end up burnt out.
Yeah.
You're living by other people's values, other people's shoulds, right?
All day long.
And so there's going to be people that are going to be like, well, I have to pay taxes, right? I have to
You actually don't. There's consequences, but you don't have to. I remember standing up back when I was doing way more speaking. I was standing in front of a bunch of people and I said, I can list all these things that are like these ball and chain. I have to take care of my children. And I went, but you know what? I don't. I choose to. There are people all day long who don't do the very things that I said I had to do it. And what a difference when I could say I choose it. I choose to pay taxes because I like fire departments and roads, right? I choose to go to work because I like to live indoors and eat and contribute, right? That's a very different
dude.
Does that make sense, Lisa?
Does it make sense? I'm already like, all right, lean in, grab your pens and pencils, get your coffee, right? And get ready because we're not messing around, right? This is important. Your life, you got one life as we know it right now, and designing your life on purpose is everything to preventing burnout and living with purpose.
No question.
So Cheri, when I met you, I was like, oh, what's she got that I don't got? Like, I was like, check her out with her. Back in the day, you had an elf in the background. You had full size, right? And I was like, who shows up with Will Ferrell in the back? That's freaking awesome. Then she's got her books color coded like a rainbow.
I know.
It's telling me she's got her shit together. Do you know what I mean? There's fun and there's order.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that was in my first moment I met you, and then I recruited you to come work with us. And then I, went on your podcast and talked, and you've been working with me, and I've been promoting your programs too. Like, there's just something about you that is, it's radiant and it's practical. And that's why I wanted to ask you the question today, right? What does it mean to design your life on purpose?
Gosh, first of all, that's the best compliment anybody can ever give me. But I also think that you just hit on it. Okay. You can just hit on it. Is that for me, when I think about designing your life on purpose, it's like there's this formula, if you will, and there's got to be the practical. There's got to be the breathe in and out. There's got to be the, pay your taxes and go eat healthy food and try not to kill people and, kind of be happy. And then there's the joy and the stuff that lights you up. And I think one of the places we mess up is doing all of one and not of the another, or, forgetting the practical. What do you do on a Tuesday? And that not every day is sexy and not every day is like bliss, and that being okay, but also not letting that become the norm. It's like, oh, remembering, where do you put in the happy? Where do you put in the joy? And I don't know if you know this about me, Lisa, but I am a planner nerd. And I write down when to be spontaneous. And I kind of do that, honest to God, because and I didn't come naturally to planner. So any of you people who are like, oh, she's one of those organized people. No. Life gave me two special needs kids who needed to be something I was not, which was organized and somewhat predictable. I did not know how to do that. And so I learned how to plan my life. And one of the beautiful things that came from that, Lisa, is that I could actually look at my life and go, oh my God, I'm looking at 3-4 months in a row. Nothing in my life brought me joy. All of it had to work. I had my own, I've been burned out twice. I've had 2 different bouts of burnout myself. And when I could finally look down on it, I could look at it like, what's missing? And that's when I've kind of figured out I had to schedule, plan, craft time for love and joy and, jokingly, spontaneity. Because it wasn't going to happen naturally when my plate was so full of special needs kids and trying to be the best pessimistic, depressed, motivational speaker out there, which is sort of what I was doing for years.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because we listen, this is what I know to be true. Our mess is our message. I don't even know who to quote that to, right? But what you just said, I think, is so important. So whether or not you have special needs children, whether or not you're a parent, this still applies, because the reality is, I was talking to my husband the other day about a purse. My purse. Like, why do I carry such a small purse? And I said, because no matter what size my purse is, I fill it. And then I can't find stuff. So if I constrain myself with a small purse, I actually can find things like keys, hand sanitizer, my mask, and some lipstick, right? And I think that's true with our calendars. And I'm horrible with my calendar, to the point where my entire life I just thought, well, I don't have the right calendar application. And what I realized was, no, I don't have the right filter on myself where the priorities were. So when my burnout happened and I looked back at my calendar, there was no mental breaks. There was no downtime. It was all doing, not being.
Yes.
What I learned over time was that the best ideas I ever had was when I had the white space. And so I used to call my programs whispers and white space, because you could hear it. Your intuition could come in, but without quiet, you're not going to hear it.
Right.
And when I think about what you just said, board meetings, QBRs, KPIs, OKRs, performance reviews, stock releases, product releases, like, where's their time for joy and fun? And I think that the opportunity is for us to help people see that you can prioritize it and make it without compromising your job, your livelihood. So I just love to hear when you're helping people design their life on purpose. Their calendar's maxed out, their purse is too big and it's full. They got special needs kids, or anything in between, whatever they've filled their day with. Like, what's one thing they can do right now to allow themselves a moment? What do you advise people?
Gosh, that's such a big question. First of all, there's a lot of stopping and breathing. Okay. And really, it's not just one step, Lisa, that's hard for me to answer, but there's this time where we start to shine the light and go, and I'll ask a lot of questions and they'll say, well, I've gotta, and I'll go, do you? Well, I gotta, well, do you?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually kind of badgering people, but it's with purposeful questions, because we've got to find the space, right? So first you've got to eliminate some things. And then very quickly, you have to add some things to your plate, which is actually counterintuitive when you're already so busy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But so I used to give this talk called, excuse me, this is not the life I ordered. And and so I would have people visually look, I would have them draw a circle on a piece of paper and say, this is your plate, this is your life. I want you to put the things that are currently on your plate. And they would be big things like, I've got this huge job, I've got these kids, I'm a sandwich parent, I'm dealing with my aging parents, I've got this particular diagnosis, and their plates would be full. And I'd say, so now what you have to do, my friends, is get a bigger plate. Because nothing on your plate, you just told me nothing on your plate gets to come off. Now, that doesn't mean we can't tweak those, but you have to find time and for some sort of nourishment to you. Now, that's another part of the work I do. What truly nourishes you? And it's often not the thing that we stereotypical think, well, I'll just go get a massage, or I'll just go we'll fill in the blank with some pseudo self-care. And that doesn't mean they don't provide self-care, but often it's more of a, oh, I did that, check, I should feel better.
Yeah, a massage is not going to make you feel better when you're overloaded.
No, it could be, you need to go read the Bridgerton novels in bed in the middle of the afternoon, or you just need to, I don't know, skip for 10 minutes. I don't know, but you kind of have to almost be, for a little bit, counterintuitive and add things to your calendar. And I know we can do that. If you, and I used to say this when people say, well, I have to go to work. I'm like, well, if you woke up and you were vomiting all over your house, you would call in sick and they would survive without you today. Because you wouldn't dare go in and spew vomit all over you could stay home.
Yeah.
And so do you get where I go with that? Is that I just really question the shouldas, oughtas.
Yeah, I think what you're highlighting for me, it just took me back to a compelling moment I'll share. But what I'm hearing you say is, for anybody, wherever you are, it's really making an inventory of what you believe you have to do, and then questioning yourself as if you're coaching yourself, like, do I really? And is it right now? And is it that important? Yes. And then to be able to look at this plate you're talking about and like, what's missing? So my example, I'll see if I can land this for us in my own world. I was very dedicated to my job, never missed a meeting. I was always worried that if I wasn't there, I'd miss some important information, which really systemically was more of a corporate issue than my own. Because if you had meeting minutes and you share them, I can easily read. However, so there was this very important, air quotes, offsite with I was the HR director at the time with the executive team. And at the same time, I had been doing my own personal inventory and realized I really wanted to volunteer my time and help. There's an organization that I was a part of. It was just forming at the time, called Girls for a Change. And this was a social movement. So we would be mentors to these young girls, 5th grade on up, and help them change the world, but not do it, just coach, guide, and hold space. And I was like, hell to the I want to do that. Same day as that offsite. And I had a coach at the time, and I sat down with her and I'm like, I don't know what to do. She's like, what's more important to you? I'm like, well, my job. She's like, really? Because you've been there 10 years already. Life does happen. And that whole thing, you're about to go change the world with a group of girls, and you're not going to be there for that. I mean, I toiled over this, Cheri, for like 3 days. And then I finally thought, well, if I had a doctor's appointment, or if I was sick that day, to your point, the offsite would still happen. And so I just said, I'm busy. I have an appointment. I didn't even like own what I was really doing. I was like, I have an appointment. Yes. I went to this thing. And you know what? I am still in touch with those girls to this day. They are married with children now. Yeah. And I would have missed that. I don't even remember what happened at that offsite.
Right.
Now, I'm not here to say offsites aren't important. I'm not encouraging everybody to just bail out. But once in a while, when push comes to shove and there's this critical thing that's only a one time, Or I could have even said, hey, I can only be there half a day. Can we move part up? Or, hey, can I get the meeting, or can I call in, or whatever? But at that moment in time, I had this, like, I had a deep knowing I needed to be at this event where they were launching this inaugural thing. And yet in my head, I was like, how can I possibly miss this meeting?
Right.
Now, at the same time, I'll land one other for you and we'll see where this goes. I got engaged at a Phil Collins concert. Everyone knows I'm a huge Phil Collins fan. For the people listening now,
I didn't know
who
that.
Phil Collins is. That's cool. But okay, so I always had tickets. So I had tickets to a Phil Collins concert. And then there was a meeting at work that was an overnight stay. So I sold my Phil Collins tickets. Now, you know what? I've never seen him again because life happened and he had to choose. And I missed out on something that is a critical, like, soundtrack to my life.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still pissed. I didn't go to that concert and I went to that meeting. Now, I'm not saying that this is for every meeting every day and you just bail out of work, but for critical things, like something that is that sentimental to me, or this change movement to help young women turn into leaders. I think I should have gone to the concert, and I'm really glad I went to the leadership.
Yeah.
So what shows up when I tell you those stories?
Oh my, well, first of all, I'm married to a drummer who loves Phil Collins. So I kind of just want you to know that just pings a little, I got me some love on for some Phil myself. So I get it. But, you know, I was just sitting here thinking that at 50,000 feet, to any leaders who manage people, don't you want your people to be fed and nourished? And so when we come to the table, I mean, I just want to imagine your spirit when you were coming back to work, having interacted with those fifth grade young women, knowing you were a part of something bigger. And I don't know about you, but I go and I get fed at a concert, or I go have a phenomenal weekend. I show back up to my life, and the sparks are hidden. And so it's those two examples happen to be about saying no to work in the moment. But when you say yes to yourself, and as leaders, when you allow, promote, even encourage your people to go build a life outside of work, the quality of life and the people who show back up. I mean, we can look at data all day long about 64% of people are disengaged from their work, and they show up, but they're not even there. You know, you want people who are there, and we become alive at concerts and contributing and eating ice cream and you know, taking a day off to swing in our backyard. Those are, I say it all the time, that really happiness is a noble pursuit. And I mean, and I think the reason why I feel like I have to say that more and more now is that we tend to want to work ourselves and work others to the bone.
Yeah, you have, such a good point. I have to say something, because you just blew my mind with what you said. So for the leader who's hearing the story of me not going to the thing or going to something and regretting later, you're talking about having employees engaged and alive.
Yes.
Here's what I realized when you were saying that. I didn't have the relationship with my leader at the time where I could say, hey, I have to make this trade-off. You know, can I get your support? What might this look like? Is there someone else on my team that I could send to the offsite for visibility?
Yeah.
Opportunity, right? Instead, I kind of hunkered down, and I had an appointment, right?
Yeah.
And I've had employees on my team who were burning out and had no joy in their lives outside of work. They a lot of pride in what they did. I would force them to take a class or take a vacation. One woman on my team ended up taking a sewing class, and to this day still thank me that every Thursday from noon to 1, she was sewing instead of working, because she said she got her best ideas.
Yeah. Yes.
And then I had other teammates that I was like, why don't you go to the gym? Don't you want to work out? Well, I'm too tired at the end of the day. Then figure, what time do you want to block on your calendar? And we'll work around you. Now, I'm not saying everything is always possible, but if you don't presence it, then the answer is going to be no.
Exactly.
So you just said inspired me to like show everybody, like, you don't have to be the situation where I'm not asking for what I need.
Right.
But you might be partnering and seeing what is possible. And then sometimes you're going to say, no, this meeting really matters. You got to be there. That's cool. Right. But we should ourselves. I should be at everything. I should do it all.
Right. Well, and on some level, and then this has nothing to do who your direct supervisors were, but in some level, the culture really thought you should be at that meeting. So you felt like you had to hide or slink out. I mean, but I'm hoping that today's leaders more understand and are really striving for and encouraging. And I don't like the term work-life balance. I really don't like that term so much, but that sense that not everything is about your job. That, you know what I mean? It's like, you've got to allow for the comings and goings, that it's a moving kind of thing. And that people, when they're not fed, and here's the thing, when I talk about designing your life on purpose, more times than not, folks just end up in a default rhythm that is not feeding them. Go to work Monday through Friday, you get up, oh, I don't have time for workout, 6:30, oh my God, we'll throw on this, I'll eat too much, I'll veg out with Netflix, rinse and repeat. I mean, more people than not live a life that is meh. I mean, they might not even get so bad as burnout, but they're certainly not happy. And who wants meh showing up every day? So you get meh.
Yeah.
I would much rather have someone who says, I'm taking 3-day weekends every, quarter, because my husband and I, or my partner and I, are going to go do this thing. And you're like, yay, come back filled.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting when you say this. So I'll take it. I want to go down the lens here. So command and control was once the norm, born from the Industrial Revolution. You're making widgets, do as I say. There's no bathroom breaks. My daughter, she's going to be in 5th grade. They studied the Industrial Revolution, and she was practicing at home going, get it done, sit down, no break. Right? And I was like, what is happening at school? She goes, oh, Industrial Revolution. I was like, so I took the opportunity. I was like, well, let's talk about what it looks like now. That's command and control. And the way that the world is evolving so rapidly, the leader who's like, sit down and get it done, that person is no longer the one with all the answers in the world today. We have a rapidly changing, evolving landscape, and it's being described as BANI. So brittle, anxious, nonlinear, incomprehensible. Like, no small words here. Like, it makes me want to vomit when I say it.
I know
it's true. I know it's true. I'm living it every day, as are you. So when I think about meh in command and control, it was also, buckle down and stay there. And this is, don't use your brain and don't have ideas and just do what you're told. But now we're in this new revolution, if you will, of the brilliant innovations happening in tech, where you have to use your brain and you have to keep all your circuitry on. And if you're meh, you can't come up with the next innovation. So this is the call to action right now.
Yeah.
I think the antidote to BANI is firm. And we talked about this too. So the reason I wanted to land this with you is I'd love to get your take on the 4 aspects, right? So we've got flexibility. That's your F. Your I, intuition. Your R, resilience. And your M is mindfulness.
Yep.
So when you're thinking of designing your life or leading through the design of your career, and we're not in command and control, and we know the world's upside down and crazy, but we know firm is the answer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, let's start with flexibility. Let's just take it down one-on-one. So flexibility, tell me more about that.
Well, flexibility, I don't know about anybody who's ever had just everything turn out the way they wanted to.
I don't know what you're talking about, Cheri.
I know, seriously.
I mean, that way?
I would show up, and I had 2 really sick kids, and I would always have like some kind of spit up on me. I'm like, I always just had to have a scarf to put over that, because I was getting ready to take the stage in front of 300 women. So I had to cover up the vomit that was on my shirt. Now,
I feel you.
I mean, you know what I mean? And so let's metaphorically be flexible. And what I would say is the sense that the more flexible you can be, you just don't break, right? That we're going the opposite of brittle. And so life's going to throw you a curveball. You can't, even in the world, you may think, well, I've hired these 3 new people and they're going to start on Monday and they don't show up. If that's going to break you down, and you're out, you've got to develop, and all these, I believe, these flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful, I think of them all as muscles. And you just have to work this muscle, and you have to say, well, that didn't turn out like I thought it would. What do we do next? It's like I used to
Yep.
when I was on the dating sites. Well, that was a loser. Next. Instead of pre-planning, oh, he's still so good or he's so awesome, I'm planning 50 pieces down. So that's the next piece, is that when I'm helping individuals design their own life, we might talk about it from the big picture, but really, I mean, you got to break it down to, how do I want to be this week? How do I want to be today? That's where the flexibility comes in. So today I'm going to show up and do this. And instead of, it's when you think you have 57 chess moves laid out, you're going to always be disappointed about that.
Totally. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's about kind of some, the yogis might say, stay in the present moment, but I do think there's real wisdom in, having your big view, but staying in the moment. What can I control right now? Whatever's on my plate. It's like John Berghoff says, I know he was on your podcast earlier. We talk about when we plan meetings, you plan tight and you hang loose.
Hang loose. Totally. Yeah.
And that's that hang loose. And you just go, well, what will work? I wonder what, and it's not pessimistic in my mind when I say what will maybe not work today. I don't mean it in a negative way.
Yeah.
Just being flexible.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you're saying, because one of the things I think about as leaders being flexible, it might be you show up to the meeting and you tell your teammates just really stressed out. So you don't start with what's wrong. You start with what's right.
Yes.
Right. It could be you think you have the answer to the solution and someone brings you a new data point. So instead of just barreling down and going your way, well, what ideas do you have? How might we? Right. And so when we're looking at this from a flexibility standpoint, I think that it is a muscle to build. And I believe in my heart of hearts that it can allow for so much more peace.
Oh,
so much more peace when you can just be in the flow and flexible with what's up.
It's not exactly flexibility, but it brings about flexibility for me. And it's the art of being curious.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
And because you can't have any other emotion if you're truly curious. So whenever life throws me a curve, and I've gotten better at this, I even have a ring now that's printed on my finger, be curious. That's how much I need to be mindful of this, is I just go, well, that didn't go as I wanted. I wonder what's up with this. Or, and you go into questions. I wonder what I can do differently. I wonder how this is an opportunity.
I love it. Yeah.
And
it's not a spiritual bypass. We're not saying like, don't act like everything sucks. It's just like, okay, what can we do? What is possible right now with this situation? Like, these are the questions, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I love that you said it's not a spiritual, it's not saying, oh, I guess this is meant to be, and it's all great. It could be total shit.
Yeah. It's bullshit, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no.
But you just go,
I'm going to lean in. Here's a real #real talk with Lisa.
Yeah.
Hell no, right?
Hails to the no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to intuition, because in my mind that flows from flexibility.
Oh, totally. And I was about to say the same thing. In fact, intuition is one of those things that I think is the more keenly you can tap into your ability to be intuitive, and we all have it, the more you're able to design your life on purpose. It makes you from the external to the internal. Like, what does the world think I should do? No. What do I think? And so that intuition, when I'm coaching folks, and I try not to be sassy pants about it, but they'll say, I don't know what I'm going. And I'll go, I believe you do. Let's find it. You know what I mean? And so it can often feel like, well, I need external world to tell me what to do. But that intuition is, again, a muscle, and it rarely steers us wrong.
Yeah.
It rarely steers us wrong. You know this, right? You meet somebody or somebody, and I'm sure everybody listening to this has had a time where they knew something was off and they didn't speak to it, or they let it go on and it festered and got worse. You're like, oh, looking back, we really should have done it differently. I think the sign of my own personal growth is when I do that a little less often, and things have to be a little less drastic before I figured it out. You know what I mean?
That's like, so interesting. Yeah. Cause I think it goes back. It's like an infinity loop with flexibility. So if you have this feeling, like, it's almost like in your gut. Intuition for me is in my gut, or goosebumps. Yeah. Goosebumps is like good. Gut is like, pay attention. Good. That's for me. And I've worked on it my whole life. But when I think about it, if we remain flexible and our intuition brings something up, then we're not so tied to having to push through.
Yeah.
Right. To push through. And one of the things when I think about, it's so interesting. So cyber, right? Cybersecurity. So many leaders that listen on our podcast are cybersecurity leaders. And they know their spidey senses up when hackers are up to bullshit and going on. And then what happens is like, well, it's Thanksgiving night. This is what happens a lot with bad actors. It's Thanksgiving night. So we're going to go poke all these things now because people want to be with their family. So you're sitting at your family like, well, I'm trying to be flexible, but I know this thing's going on. I should be checking. And in my mind, I'm like, what if Thanksgiving is a different day? What if you don't tie yourself to Thanksgiving? Because the world says Thanksgiving is here. Hackers show up here. But what if in your world, you were to just invite Thanksgiving on a different day so you could be fully present? Right. And I'm like, these are some of the design hacks.
Beautiful.
About life.
Yeah.
So this is where my head goes, because your intuition is, you're sitting at dinner eating your turkey, if you will, right? And you're going, oh, they're at it, but I'm going to stay here. My family wants me here. Why not?
And really, you're neither place.
You're neither. Exactly. Yes.
You're neither place. And so, yeah. And so that flexibility, and I would have never thought of that kind of example. I love that you brought up that example for your listeners, that sometimes there's the blinding flash of the obvious, but we keep doing it the way we've always been doing it. And I mean, for me, I'll give you a different example. I would sit down with my parenting group, my girlfriends, and I would be complaining about my son would always take my shaving cream and spray out all the shaving cream out the window. And I would come back the next week and I'm like, he did it again. And he did it again. And they finally said, why do you keep putting a can of shaving cream in the shower? And, it's like, oh, because that's where I thought I was supposed to keep it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And instead of going, oh, this is not the circumstance in which I have. And so again, not flexible, really, and a silly example from shaving cream, but you get it.
I love your example. It's great.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
I don't have to do it this way.
Yeah.
And using your intuition. And I even want to say just then, sometimes having, and this is sort of a plug for coaches and consultants, no shame if we can't see some of these things ourselves.
Oh, a million %. Yes.
We can't see the obvious sometimes. For that person who's always does Thanksgiving here and they need to hear to really explore a way to do something different. We rarely come to these on our own. We have to have somewhere to bounce this ideas off of and be creative and be flexible and listen to what our intuition says. So
absolutely, I really appreciate you saying that, because what we don't want a listener to do is walk away feeling like, well, shit, I never thought of that. What the hell now? Right. We want
not to be, I missed it. No, we missed the obvious all the time.
When I burnt out, I was not flexible, intuitive, resilient, or mindful. I can tell you that much. This is a muscle I had to build, and I had to question everything with lots of support, from mental health to nutrition, to coaching, right? Spiritual support. I did it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not, yes. Let's just land. Hey, listener, you're good. And here's some things to reflect on.
Yeah.
Right. We just want to, if we're having coffee with us right now, we'd be sitting chatting about, hey, what's that mean to you?
Yeah.
So let's go to resilience, because I think resilience has been this buzzword for so long. And I think it's shame-filled. And for so many people, like, well, I should be more resilient. I should be more resilient. Cheri. Like, what?
I know. I'm with you. I love the word, but it's been used to death. Do you know what I mean? And it's taken on a life of its own. So I cringe just a little because it has been shaming. But for me, resilience is just that you kind of get back up again. And I don't think we have to bounce back up. I don't think we have to pretend we didn't fall. I don't think we have to do it even gracefully. It's just like, okay, here I did, I'm willing to come back to the table. For me, resilient, I like the word tenacious just a little bit, that. So for me, I go, where's my tenacious muscle versus am I being resilient? I feel less shamed. And I say, okay, where's that little stubborn part of me that says I'm not going to give up yet?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Just because the word resilient, but I love, we do have to be able to get back up, because there's so much now, it sounds so, that takes us down. There's just so much that takes us down. And I don't know if I'm just seeing it more or if things are harder now than they used to be. I couldn't answer that question for sure. but it sure feels like the world is pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can take us out. And I think that takes me back a little bit to what I was talking about at the beginning. If the only things on your plate are all those really hard things that are asking you every day to show up and take care of things, and there's nothing that's easier or gentle or nourishing, you can't be resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Got no
Yeah. This is everything right now, because you're basically saying, if your cup isn't full or your tank is empty, resilience is not an option. It's like people burn out and their battery shuts down. It's not you pop back up and go to work the next day. You have a medical leave, right?
Yeah.
So then people are like, well, I'm broken. I'm not resilient. It's like, no, your tank is empty.
Yeah.
You are not broken. Your tank is empty. So your point is so critical in the resilience lens, which is, in order to fill and build your resilience muscle, it cannot be one-way output. There has to be nourishing and input. For some people, like a lot of people in tech, they're hidden musicians, guitar players, piano players, bass players. Grab your damn guitar. I had one client, he's like, I haven't touched it in 2 years. I said, okay, here's your homework. Nothing else. Pick up the guitar, right? And then talk to me about how this feels. It wasn't go roll out your next board meeting proposal or figure out your next acquisition. It was take your guitar and play it.
Yep.
Right. And I think that there's something so critical in this, because not everybody, the world's messaging is you should be more resilient. Well, I believe in my heart of hearts, you've been freaking resilient and your battery's drained.
That's it.
You've over-resilienced too much.
Yes.
Now we got to resource ourselves. We have to resource to come back.
And I just said, it's just like, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but it is kind of simple. There's just nothing left to give. It's math, if you want to. It's just like, I'm not a math person, but it's like, I always envision the pitcher, and the pitcher is empty. I don't care how many times I tip it. Ain't nothing coming out if there's nothing in it. And it's just math. It's just the way it is.
It is math. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And the way we tap into it, I had two things that popped in my mind. Years and years and years ago, I had a client who was the former CFO for a very, very large company. You would all know the name of the company. And this person was a client trying to figure out what their next was going to be. And had been very big corporate, very, trying to, and burned out kind of, And my assignment was go to the craft store. What? I said, go to the craft store, pick a craft. I don't care what the craft is. I don't care. And this person came in with little tiny molded, they had made fruits and vegetables out of clay, little teeny tiny things. But what got opened up was this creativity, much like music, that began to crack open this little place where something else could go in.
Yeah.
When my husband goes downstairs and plays his drums for 10 or 15 minutes, he comes up the steps a different man. And I bet everybody listening to this on some level could say, I know this one thing feeds me. When I color in a coloring book, if I listen to Janis Joplin and sing in the car, if I make homemade bread and give it to my neighbors, everybody, that would be my challenge, actually, if you're listening. Whatever pinged you just then, that's a call to do something, because it fills your pitcher. And it's not simple. It's really not, y'all, if you're listening. It's not like, oh, I'll do that. No, this is critical. Don't you think, Lisa?
I think it's life-giving, and it's your life force. And I would say one of the things that I remembered when I had to figure this out for myself. So sometimes for me, it's mindfulness coloring. My daughter likes to draw, so she'll draw the picture and I'll color it in. So I've made it a family thing for us. We do vision boards. I have them up on the wall. I love it. But one of the questions my coach asked me early on was, when you were little, what did you like to do? And the thing that really showed up for me that rocked my world was ride my bike. And so I kept thinking, well, I'm mindfully coloring and making vision boards, and I'm so crafty. I've never been a crafty person, but when I'm on my bike, I am free. I am focused. I'm looking for traffic. Nothing. I'm not on my phone. Nobody's talking to me, so it's like shower time. That's essential. But if I can get on my bike, oh my gosh, Cheri. And I thought one day I might ride 100-mile. What are those? I forget what those are called. Because this is what in my mind, I'm like, I'll be a bicyclist. Yeah, no, I'm not the one riding the 100 miles.
Right.
The neighborhood, I'm good. Go find the popsicle dude and get the popsicle on the way home. Life's good. And I think it's just the freedom.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I think for me that was really insightful, because I kept thinking, oh, I'm feeling so good coloring in these mindfulness books. Well, it was just nice to have quiet. But when I felt alive was on the bike. So I think the question is, what makes you feel alive? And when you were little, what made you feel alive? And how are you nurturing that? Because that's to be resilient, you need to nurture your aliveness.
No question. And what just struck me, and is you didn't say it explicitly, but let's say you go, oh, it's the it's the bicycle and the freedom. And let's say for some reason that's not an option for you. You can, the answer to the question is still beautiful. It was like, well, what was it about the bicycle that was freedom? I was away from everybody else. It was the wind in my face. It was the, and so then I would, as a coach, say, okay, if that's not an option for you, or how do we modify it? Again, like you said, I want to go do 100 miles. No. You don't have to just go rent one for the day. It may be enough to get you going. You don't have to. And for folks who are super overachievers and maybe even at risk for burnout, this is what I did when I was burned out my second time. I thought, I said, okay, I'm going to take a month off, but while I'm off with this burnout, I'm going to write a book about how not to be burnt out. I mean, it's like, really? I mean, seriously, it's like,
I'm laughing from knowing. I'm not laughing at you.
No, but it took my friends to go, are you effing kidding me?
Yes.
That's what you're going to do as you heal from burnout, is to write it. And so be careful as we look to what makes us feel alive, that we don't have to feel like we have to become the scuba diver forever.
Totally. Yeah, you don't need the next certification. So here's the thing I'll say with you on that. I'm so glad you brought the story up. Okay. We do a lot of Clifton Strengths workshops. You've been a part of some with us, right?
Yes.
And we tend to see high execution in tech. Specifically, we've got achiever. Achiever gets fueled energetically by doing. So achievers in burnout, they're going to de facto do.
Yeah.
Right? Achievers in burnout, the de facto is to be. It's like, take your achiever strength and just put it on the bench because it's done you well. And then find another strength to lean into while you're recovering from burnout, right? So I just want to presence that, because there's going to be a lot of people going, well, why didn't you write a book on your break? That's a sabbatical. No, burnout, a sabbatical does not cure burnout.
No.
If you have high achiever or high execution, you're going to go do more. It's just more doing. So one of the things about resting and rejuvenating is not doing. And that's hard when you have high achiever. So I really want to presence that when you're talking about writing the book.
And I love that. And you brought up something that I do a lot of my own coaching. It actually is internal family systems therapy, if you've ever heard of it, IFS. Yep. But understanding that certain parts of us, we lean in, and certain parts of us can be more burned out than others. And so we might ask that lovely, phenomenal achiever part of us, can you just go take a little break? And we're going to love on you over there. And we're going to pull over here. Our joyful child and let him or her drive the bus for just a little while.
Yeah, it's funny because I think about relator. There's a lot of relator in tech too. And that's deep personal relationships, and those suffer in burnout. So if I would say, if you have relator on your strengths, that's what to lean into. It's calling a friend. It's talking about how you really feel. It's connecting, right? Cool. So it's, all that dopamine fix needs to go bye-bye, and we need some serotonin.
There we go. That's well put.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to mindfulness.
Okay.
Because I think you and I both have the same thought. We were talking about, it's not just a bubble bath or a massage. Like mindfulness, I believe designing your life on purpose is a mindful exercise.
No question.
So talk to me about mindfulness.
So for me, mindfulness, there's two definitions of the word. Mindful sometimes brings me into this thoughtful about being meditative and really, calming your mind and being mindful. But I'm going to talk about it slightly different. And this is being intentional, or being what I call on purpose. And so when I was sort of joking around about my calendar, I've crafted a life that's I'm very mindful that it includes a lot of things. It includes, frankly, meditation. Okay. So I'm mindful when I look at my month, when I look at my week, when I help leaders look at a quarter or a year, that you pick out, how do you want to feel at the end of this year? What do you want to have accomplished? And then, because then you're going to know how to show up on a Tuesday and a Thursday and in a given week. And so when you're mindful, to me, then my central nervous system calms down. If I've captured it all, and I know that, oh, I'm planning to have at least 3 vacations this year with my beloved. I want to have so many times where I invite family people over, or I make new friends, and I want to do this much volunteering. And that gets scheduled into my life in a mindful way. My central nervous system truly goes, okay, now I'm building the life I want to live. Now, that may not be what other people think of with mindfulness, but that's how I factored
I'm
in.
resonating with you big time on this, because
that's designing your life on purpose.
Yes. And here's what I know. Companies have corporate calendars. You know when your recharge days are, or your shutdown days, or your end of the quarter. Okay. So they're planning. Are you planning?
Right.
Like, are you planning up against the constraints you have so that you can fill that in? And I never did. Before burnout, I never planned vacations. I just would wake up one day really tired and go, I guess I should book a vacation.
Yeah.
Right. But what would life be like if I was 2 times a year, at least a week? For me, I need 2. I know who I am now. But in the beginning, it was like at least a week where I have no commitments. Right. And then I became a parent late in life, and I was like, oh, holy crap, this school schedule is sure putting a hitch in my get along. I didn't think about back to school night and, winter break days and ski weeks. And I mean, so many days off, and then wanting to be present with my daughter. So now our vacation plans, my husband and I, it's clients, right? We look at the client load, what we're committed to, what's school, look at that. And then we're like, okay, how do we make sure our needs are met? Now we're finally going to be next year looking at our needs, school, and then work, because we're trying to walk the talk. But we've been inching our way. So it's like, if there's certain things that are inevitable in work, don't plan your vacation over them. Factor that into your vacation planning, but still plan your vacation. Or maybe you're not calling it a vacation. It might just be, what are they calling them now? Recharge days, right? Plan your own recharge, but don't make it be, it's a recharge day, so I'll just catch up on email.
No.
Don't do that. That's not the point.
That goes back to work around values and like legacy. And what do you want to do? I mean, to me, I think of somebody who says, well, for me, I want to drive down the Amalfi Coast in Italy. If I don't say that and plan that, even if it's years from now, it won't happen, right? So there's even this power of not only just in a year and around work, but in your whole life. I've had folks who all of a sudden wake up and they go, I never had time to get married or have children. I was devoted to work the whole time. And what's sad, it's only sad because they regret that they just didn't give any time for that. No value about whether you should or shouldn't have that. That's that personal evaluation and personal reflection, Tom, and making sure, because I say this often, you will not accidentally have the life you want. You will not accidentally create the team you want to lead. Nothing happens like that by accident. It happens when you're mindful. And I would say purposeful questions, purposeful conversations, and purposeful actions all lead up. And those require being engaged. They require being flexible and intuitive. It won't always work. You have to be resilient. But probably the most important one there is at least being mindful of where you want to end up, or how you want your people to feel, how you want to feel. I was talking to somebody the other day, and where were we? I can't remember, but I said something like, life is just too long to be miserable. And she goes, don't you mean too short? I went, no, life is just too long in some ways. And I mean, we talk about it being too short, but when you're just breathing in and out and pretty miserable or burned out, this, Lisa, those are some dark days.
Oh, it's super dark.
It's super dark.
Yeah. One of the greatest gifts we gave ourselves was to look at our financial plan and decide, how do we want to live? And that's why we moved out of state. Right. So we were like, you know what? now is the time. Our daughter's young enough. We were late in life parents, and we were like, if we want a retirement, we can't keep having these types of bills. We got to go over here and figure it out.
Yep.
And people are like, you're leaving the state after your whole life. And I'm like, well, I'm clear now what the kind of life I want to live.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's a real big question, because we get caught up in the day to day, and I'll think about that later. So the invitation is to bring firm, flexible, intuitive, resilient, mindful into your daily practice, into your purview, into your conversations while you're looking at the future, so that you as leaders can do that through a business lens, and you as leaders in your own lives are designing your life on purpose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
Okay. Well, hey, my friend Cheri, we need a song. We need a song. We're thinking about all this, right?
Okay.
What's going on? We want to inspire people, and we want to do it through music to support them in remembering this conversation and remembering to reflect.
Well, that was I was just going to tell you. So there's another ring on my finger. That is the song, I Am Light by India
Shut
Arie.
up. Okay. Look.
I know. Isn't
it? India Arie is in my background.
She's, I have a tattoo that I got 18 years ago, back when I thought I had to have one. It's from an India Arie song as well. But that song anchors for me that flame in all of us. I call it the pilot light that sometimes that we all have. And whether we choose to ignite it, I don't think it ever really goes out, but it does get ignored. And
I love this.
Yeah. So that song instantly brings me into myself. And I think that part of that, less about what the world needs from me and more about in here. That work.
I had no idea you were going to say that. And people do not want to hear me sing, but I am going to say, I am light. I am light. There you go. That's all I got. You go listen to India. She does it much better than I do. I love this awesome song. I actually am so grateful for you presencing that song. Okay. So when people think about working with you, there's going to be plenty of people inspired about designing their life on purpose. Okay. We know, well, let me just present. So Cheri is part of the collective at RLD Group, and we work with leaders all day. So if she inspires you, let me know. And if you have your own inspiration, you're not looking through the corporate lens, and as an individual, you're like, I need some Cheri. How do you want them to find you?
I'm at CheriHoneycutt.com, and I spell it CheriHoneycutt.com. And I proudly call myself a life coach. And because is there anything more important than getting our life in alignment with what we want? So I love doing my work with you, Lisa. I love going in and working with corporate leaders. But I love helping folks kind of look at their whole life, including how they show up for work, and crafting a life that you really want to live. And so that's where you find me, CheriHoneycutt.com. Just email me. That's the way I like it. Let's just talk.
Right?
Let's get on the counter.
That's what I did. I Facebooked you. I was like, hey, we need to talk.
Let's talk.
The thing I know for sure is if you go into your phone and you say Cheri Honeycutt, Siri's going to pop up and ask you a bunch of questions. So just make sure, right? That's the funny part. Siri may be talking back at you and you'll think, is someone listening? Well, of course they are. And you want to type it so you can talk to her.
Yes.
All right. So we've said a lot. Let me see if I might summarize. Designing your life on purpose doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
It requires you to be mindful and purposeful. And within that, the lens we had today about flexible, intuition, resilience, and mindful all lends itself very well to designing your life at work and designing your life outside, because we all know it's not about balance, it's about integration.
Absolutely.
And you are a human being inside tech. You live and breathe. You are not of the robot. You are a human. So it's time to design your life on purpose. And Cheri Honeycutt, thank you for gifting us with your insights and your expertise today. I feel blessed to know you, and I'm so glad you're here.
Back at you, girl. Thank you so much.
All right. So if you like this episode, be sure tune in, subscribe on YouTube, share it with a friend, tag someone you know. We are all in this together. You are not alone. And who doesn't need to design their life on purpose? I bet you know someone who could use this video. Thanks so much, everyone. Until next time on Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre, make it a great day.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre. Head on over to wherever you find your other favorite podcasts and subscribe to Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre. Leave a review with some of that 5-star love. And let's keep it real. There's a reason why you're listening to this. If you don't get the support you need and start making changes in your life and work as a leader in tech, you can expect regret and burnout in the near future. Lisa and the team at RLD Group have been in your shoes, sat in those meetings, and experienced everything you can imagine as a leader in tech. They can help you get kick-ass results at work without burning out, so you can be present for the moments that matter to you and your loved ones. Take your first step by visiting rldgroupllc.com. RLD Group helps develop technical experts lacking people leadership skills from being a company's biggest liability into their greatest asset. Find out more at rldgroupllc.com. Thanks again for listening. Catch you next time on Ctrl Alt Delete with Lisa Duerre, powered by RLD Group, as we help you reboot your leadership drive.